I'd probably come down on the floor, but I'm sure that the people I'm sure that the people online don't want to see me that close up. I wouldn't want to see me that close up, so I might stay here, I might stay up here, but you never know, I might end up moving down. But tonight I'd just like to talk about reaping the harvest, and I don't really want to talk about reaping it so much as it was almost why we reap it, and I'll get to my slides. You can just hit from beginning, and it should pop up. Oh, it's not? Well, anyways, while they're figuring that out, I just wanted to talk about, it's so simple, but it's something that the church really needs to understand today. Because if we truly are in the end times, if we truly are, which I do believe, if you look around us, you'll see things that are happening. How close? I don't know. I'm not a prophetic expert, but I do believe we are walking towards that. But I do believe that we are coming towards the end, and now we are slowly progressing. Well, not slowly, it's almost rapidly, but it's always been at the same place. But if there's one thing that we have to understand more than ever, it's about reaping the harvest. And in Scripture, you see that there are principles that are clearly seen and that also work outside of Scripture, because it's not just something that's in the Bible. Some people don't like to take the Bible literally. Some people don't like to take the principles of God literally. But there are principles of God that, regardless of the fact that you read the Bible or not, they will come true and they will be fulfilled, because they're principles. And it's not to say that we don't obviously need the Bible, or that there can't be other principles outside of the Bible. The Bible doesn't give us, every principle to live by in life, but if it's a biblical principle, then 10 chances out of 1, it's a life principle, especially for Christians. And if it's in the Bible, it's something that we should look at and something that we should understand. So I'll just say this: if it's biblical, then we should understand that it's a part of our life and that it has to be in our mind. And there's a very clear principle of reaping the harvest. The understanding that if you sow, you will reap eventually. That if you plant, you will reap. Imagine for a second if you were to go plant a garden in the spring, not knowing that eventually that seed was going to bring forth a harvest, that seed was going to bear fruit. You never had a certainty that principle was true, that I'm going to plant this, I'm going to take care of it, and somehow, some way or another, it's going to grow. If that wasn't true, I don't have a garden anyway, so even if it is true, I still don't have a garden, but I definitely wouldn't have a garden even if it wasn't true. I'm not going to go waste my time, my blood, sweat, and tears focusing on this thing. That it could bring growth, it might not bring growth, it has a potential, but there's no certainty. I personally wouldn't do that, and I can imagine that almost everybody would agree that, saying, if I never had certainty of a harvest, I wouldn't plant. But because it's a biblical principle, we can have the understanding that no matter what happens, no matter what goes on in our life, that if we sow, if we plant seed, if we do our job and we're consumed with the harvest, that eventually in its time, in its season, because there are harvest seasons, not all the time is harvest season. You're not harvesting your corn right now because it's not harvest season for corn. You're not harvesting your blueberries right now because it's not harvest season for blueberries. So we have to also understand that it will happen in its season. But for an example of a life principle that necessarily isn't a biblical principle, I have, the principle that some people have is I won't drink pop. Believe it or not, you're not gonna find that in the Bible. You're not gonna find thou shalt not drink a Coca-Cola on Sundays. It's not gonna happen. You're not gonna find that, hey, you shouldn't have too much sugar because it's not healthy for you. But a principle that we can find in the Bible is living a healthy lifestyle. And there are certain scriptures that I believe it's in 1 Timothy that says bodily exercises profit little. And I know that this is kind of stretching what Paul is saying, but at least it profits. He's saying, you can be healthy with bodily exercise, but then he goes on to say, hey, but the spirit, that's where you need to excel. Don't worry about the body so much, because your body's going to perish. You're going to get old and wrinkly someday, no matter how hard you exercise or how healthy you eat. But there is a little bit of profit. And then 3 John 1 and 2, he said, "Dear friend, I pray that all may go well with you and that life may be good in health, just as it is well with your soul." That in health, that you want to be healthy, that you want to have that health. And so you can see that, well, drinking pop isn't a biblical principle. You're not going to find it. If you were going to find it, it'd probably be in the 2nd book of Jude, and we don't have a 2nd book of Jude. So it's just not going to happen. But you can find Scripture saying, be healthy. That you should be healthy. It's a basic understanding that you can find even in Ephesians 2:10. It talks about us being his workmanship, that we may be able to perform his work for us, and that we can do good works for Jesus Christ that he prepared for us. And we can't do that if we're not healthy. I know that is also pulling that scripture, but these are just things that you can find that will say, hey, you have to be healthy. You have to do this. So there are some things, and I'm not going to lie, there are some things that we do that are extra biblical in principles. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean they're right either. We have to be very careful with how we approach things that are extra biblical and things that are principles that we live by, because our job as a Christian should be, and it must be, to approach life with a biblical Christian mindset, to approach everything to be like Christ. And, you know, we see the saying, WWJD, what would Jesus do? And I know that you're not going to say that about every situation that you have in life, but you can train yourself to think, how would Jesus think? What is the best moral, what is the best option for me to represent Christ in what I do? You know, I'm going to say at work, for me, there's some things that I shouldn't say that the other guys that I work with say. Why? Because I'm trying to represent Christ. It might not be wrong what they're saying when they're giving their political opinions, but I have to be careful, even though I don't believe my opinion is wrong, and I don't believe my viewpoint is wrong, but I have to be careful to approach that nicely. I have to be careful to not go and offend them. Why? Because I'm representing Christ. It doesn't matter if it's my principle, if I want to be a conservative or a liberal. That's not the point. What the point is to approach everything with a biblical mindset, and a mindset like Christ. And so there are principles that are in the Bible that will happen, like I said, regardless of if you read the Bible or if you don't read the Bible. Some will call them promises. You know, a lot of them are found in Proverbs. Proverbs is a book full of principles that if you live this way, the outcome will likely be this. Like the fact that if you train up a child, that's the principle is that's likely going to be the way things turn out for them. That how you train them when they're young is going to be the future for them. And science recognizes that. Psychology recognizes that. Doctors recognize that. And you can look at it. They do studies on kids that are between the ages of 1 and 3 to determine whether they should build prisons or whether they should build offices. They start looking at their behavior as early as that, because whatever you're training that child to do, whatever that environment of that child to do, eventually that's going to be what happens. Eventually that's going to be their life. And it's a principle, and it's a sad principle, because there are kids that grow up in rough environments, and often they're a product of their environment, and they become not so great adults because they never had a fair chance at kids. But we have hope that if we also raise our kids, that we have the principle that they will grow up right, and even if they stray off the path, that there is that principle in Scripture that they will continue on that way, and we have a hope that Jesus will reach them eventually someday. And I know that there are ones that stray off that principle, but the principle is still true. So we have to understand that there is difference between principles and promises. We have to understand that there are some things that happen in life that are extra biblical. Like when you wake up, the Bible's not going to tell you when to wake up, but we have to be aware of principles in our life to maintain being a Christian. And the one part that I want to focus on, obviously, is reaping the harvest, because this is essentially what being a Christian is all about. At the end of the day, reaping the harvest, going into the harvest field is, you know, we're saved. Obviously, yeah, we're going to go to heaven, but he said, he said, when the Holy Ghost comes upon you, you will receive power from on high to be a witness for my name's sake. You're going to receive something that eventually, yeah, you'll go to heaven. You'll be in paradise with me. You'll spend eternity with me. But first, before that act is complete, before you enter the other side, before Don's death gates or Jesus returns, there is a job. There is something that you must do, and that's to occupy until he comes. That's to live like he's coming again. That's to understand that we need to be about his work. We're not to be the unfaithful steward that we see in the Bible, that he knew his master went away. He didn't know when he was coming back. So he got drunk and he lived on excess, and he didn't focus on what he was actually supposed to do. And so his master came back. It caught him by surprise, and his whole household was not ready. So they never went in where his master was. And you can see the same in the parable of the talents. The person who had 1 talent, they were given less, obviously, in our materialistic eyes, but in God's eyes, they were given the exact same amount of responsibility. It didn't matter if they had 1, 2, or 5. They had the exact same amount of responsibility to do with what they had. And that's us today. We have the responsibility to do with what we have and to occupy until he comes. That's our job. And if we fail to do that job, we're not going to hear. And this is my personal opinion. I know we're not saved by works. I'm not here to debate that. But my personal opinion is, if you neglect the work of Christ, then we're neglecting the whole purpose of the gospel. If we neglect the harvest, then I really believe that we are neglecting the cross. If what Jesus did for us isn't enough to go tell somebody, and I'm not saying you have to be a Bible-pushing Christian that all you talk about is, and I'll get into this later, that all you talk about is, you need Jesus, you need Jesus. No, you can just love people. You can just smile at people. You can just, at work, I'm not always preaching at them. They know I'm a Christian. If they ask me a question, they know that I'm going to give them my Christian answer. If they do something, they know I'm going to have a Christian response. I'm not there all the time saying, you need to be saved or you're going to spend eternity in hell, because it's not going to work for them. It's about loving people. But we need to be concerned with the harvest. This isn't just something that, is recent. If we can go to my next slide, I'll jump back onto my slides. I'll go to my next one. I'll go to my next one again. I had a pop can there. I'll go to my next one as well. This is one thing I also wanted to say. Don't confuse promises with principles. I said it before, principles are true regardless. Promises, and I'll just elaborate on this because I do feel to elaborate on it. Promises won't happen if you don't act on it. And this is something, we're promised a harvest. Well, it's true that the harvest is ready. There's the promise of revival, but if we don't act on revival, it's not going to happen. But we have the principle that if we put seed in the ground, there will be a harvest. So if we act on it, that promise will come true because it's fulfilling a principle. If we can go to my next slide again. In its time, it will grow. Just let it grow in its time. If we can go to my next slide. I believe right now, and this is the scripture I wanted to read, do not be deceived. God will not be made a fool. And this is just showing that this is a principle, that this is something serious, that because God won't be made a fool. It says, for a person will reap what he sows, because the person who sows in his own flesh will reap corruption from the flesh, but the one who sows to the Spirit will reap eternal life from the Spirit. So that's also why we have to be careful and cautious if we are having a Christian mindset and where we are reaping from, where we talk to people. Because if we're reaping from the flesh, if I'm saying things that I shouldn't be at word, it's just going to reap things of the flesh. And I don't want to reap things of the flesh. I don't want things of the flesh in my life. I want things of the Spirit. So I have to be focused on the Spirit. If we can go to my next slide again. Here's where I want to be. Because Paul wasn't given some revelation. It's not like Paul was the only guy who figured this out. This is just true. And, in the Old Testament, we can see that Job understood this. In the book of Job, it's written, even as I have seen those who plow iniquity and those who sow trouble reap the same. That what they're putting in the ground, what they're doing, will eventually come back to them. And the New Testament example is another writing of Paul. And my point is this: the person who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. The person who sows generously will also reap generously. And our example today, as simple as it is, I said grow in a garden. Because this is just going to be true throughout all time. This This is something, and if we can go to my next slide, this is something that is going to happen all the time, that this is going to be fulfilled whether we like it or not. And so we need to ask ourselves, is our principles, is our viewpoint of the harvest, is our mindset pushing us towards the harvest and towards God, or are our principles stepping us away, and our viewpoint of what a Christian is and what our job is as a Christian, is that pulling us away from God and pulling us away from the harvest? Because I truly believe with all my heart that alignment with God will give us a heart for the harvest. I've shared this before, but there was one time I was praying. Well, I wasn't praying. I was praying during, and then because God was just putting something on me. I was watching a podcast, and I know Madeline told me the other day, I'm going to steal it. She said, God takes you from a podcast to a Godcast, and I liked it. So I just wanted to say that. But I was watching a podcast, and it was about a rapper. And God took me from the podcast to a Godcast, and he told me something. And the rapper, he was talking about, he didn't like writing music because when he wrote music and when he performed, a heaviness came over him. And it was almost like a depression. He said, it feels like a weight comes over me. And, obviously as Christians, we recognize that heaviness in music and stuff. People, be careful what you listen to because there are spirits attached to it. But we recognize that is a spiritual thing, that is probably a demonic force that is coming because he's getting put under a heaviness and he said, these words just started flowing, and he said, I hate doing this. I hate being like this. He said, I don't like the feeling. And God just kind of spoke to me. He said, because I was saying, that's awful. Like the guy's a millionaire and he doesn't like what he does. And God just spoke to me. He said, you know what's worse? He said, this is the best it's going to get for him if he doesn't get saved. That this temporal life that, is rough. It beats us up. I'll be lying if I said it never beat me up sometimes. That this is the best it will get for him. That this is the only heaven that he will ever understand, that he will ever experience if he doesn't make his life right with God. Because why? Because hell is a much rougher place. Hell is going to be a place that none of us want to go. And I'll be honest, I'm not lining up for hell for nobody. If anybody starts leaving the church, I'm not going with you. Like people, I shouldn't say it. People have told me, yeah, we're leaving the church, and they try to tell me to leave the church. I'm like, have fun. I've been out there. I know the wickedness that happens there. I'm not going back to it. You couldn't pay me enough money to go to hell. But then God just took me into something else, and it was really a pivotal point in my Christian mind. And God just kind of showed me a heart, and it was beating, and it was pulsing. And he said, James, if you will understand the heartbeat of heaven, if you understand what my heart beats for, then you can truly fulfill my will. And I began to wonder, and I talked to Brother Gowan about it. I talked to other mentors in my life, other people, other men of God, just people in general saying, what does this mean? Like, what is the heartbeat of heaven? And, it took me about a week of prayer and talking to people to finally realize that the heartbeat of heaven is for souls. And that the closer we get to God, the louder we'll hear his heartbeat. That his heart is beating just for souls. The only purpose of heaven, I shouldn't say the only purpose, but the sole purpose of heaven is God wants to reach his people. God wants to reach the lost. God wants to reach those who are not where we are. He wants to reach those people who were where we were. We were all once sinners. We were all once those people that were the nobodies. We were all once those people that our eternal place was going to be an eternal place of torment. But because his heart is so focused on the harvest, because his only prayer request was for the harvest, that's his heartbeat, is to be in the harvest. So we can see that his prayer was for the harvest. In Matthew 9:37-38, it says, then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And he said, therefore I ask the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest. I've been guilty of it, and people have been guilty of it, and God convicts me all the time about it, is that we use the term that the harvest is coming. The harvest isn't coming. The harvest is ready. The fields were white as snow in Jesus' day. They were ready for harvest, and the fields are white as snow in our day. They are ripe and ready for harvest. Let me tell you, I believe if there's ever been a time that the harvest is ready, is today. People are so hurt. People are so broken. There's literally almost no hope. I'm not going to be a doom and gloom preacher here, but there's almost no hope left in our society. You know, inflation just got rose again. There's war happening. There's things that are going wrong. We just got out of a pandemic. There's more viruses. We're hearing more and more bad things. The news is just bombarded with fear. It's bombarded with filth. Movies are bombarded with things that aren't good. And today, if there's never been a day like today people are ready for the harvest. Today people are ready, and I'm not saying, we're just going to go manipulate them emotionally, but they're ready to hear that there is a God who can fix their situation. They're ready to hear that there is a God whose name is Jesus, that can heal their sin, that can forgive their sin, that can set them free, that maybe life's not going to get perfect, but they can have peace in the storm. I'm not scared of what's going around. I'm not scared of the potential of a war globally happening. That doesn't frighten me, because I know if I breathe my last breath today, or if I breathe it 50 years from now, or if I get sent to war, God will be on the throne and my place is with him. So we can have peace no matter what we're going through. And next, he came for the harvest. In Luke 19:10, this is the words of Jesus. He said, "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." That's all he came for. He didn't come to have these high accolades and say, "Hey, I'm God, bow down and worship me. Do all these things and treat me the nicest and treat me the best and adorn me in robes and put a crown on my head." He didn't come for the riches. He already has the riches. He just came to save that was lost. He just came for the sinners, those people that were nobodies, the people that were worthless, the people that even the religious people said, "Why are you eating with these filthy people?" Why? And I'll just say this. If whoever you're around really shows how your heart is. I'll just say this. I know nobody's in here, but maybe somebody will watch online. If you don't want to be around the drunk or the drug addict because they smell funny, your heart's not in the harvest. If you don't want to be around the prostitute or the person that doesn't have a good name because their reputation isn't good, your heart's not in the harvest. If you don't want to be around the thief, and I'm not telling you to go do all these things and participate in it, don't get me wrong, but if you don't want to be around the thief because he's a nobody, or the prisoner because they're nobodies, they made too many mistakes, your heart's not in the harvest. Our heart needs to be in the harvest. And the last and I would say almost most importantly, he died for the harvest. And it says, "But God demonstrated his own love for us." And I love this. Get this. "In that while we were still sinners," in spite of me making my mistake, in spite of knowing that you're going to sin tomorrow and I'm going to sin tomorrow, Christ still died for us. Christ still paid that price. So I truly believe with all my heart that if we are really in alignment with God, if we're becoming closer to God, we will become more concerned with the harvest. And this has to be our concern. Our concern can't be with the condition of the people. We shouldn't, I'm not saying we shouldn't strive to save millionaires. If millionaires come and we get a chance to witness, obviously we witness because they're a soul. We're not looking at their bank account. But we shouldn't be concerned of the condition of the harvest. We shouldn't be concerned with the quality or what we deem as good or what we deem as bad. We should just be concerned with, are they ready to meet Jesus? Can they come closer to God? Are they ready to hear the gospel? And I say, are they ready? Not in the sense, are they ready to go to heaven? But because sometimes people just don't want to hear it. And you can't, and this sounds controversial, but you got to be careful where you're sowing your seed. You got to know the 4 types of ground. You got to know that, there is rocky soil. There is wayside soil. There is thorny grounds. There is soil that's not going to produce as effectively as it should. So your goal shouldn't be to sow the seed then. Your goal should be to sow the seed in the good soil while you work this soil out. While you get this soil sorted out. Because if you're just wasting I shouldn't say wasting your time, but if you're just putting all your time and efforts into what's not going to grow, it's not going to be effective. You can be more effective tilling that ground, working that ground, understanding that I got to get the rocks out of this. I got to pull the thorns out of this to get it ready for harvest, to get it ready to bear fruit, to get it ready to plant, to get it ready to go. And this is our job, to understand where we need to put our stuff. And, some people will say, and this is, I hate doing this. Believe me, I'm not trying to beat up on anybody. I'm just trying to get rid of all of our excuses. But some people have told me, I'm introverted. I can't talk to people. And I just want to ask them, do you truly understand what Jesus did for you? Do you truly understand where you were going? Do you truly understand where your family member that you don't want to talk to is going? I personally don't think we do, church, because if we do, I think we'd be on fire 10 times as much. I don't think I understand fully. I'm not claiming to understand at all the torment of hell or the torment of what's going on. But people would make that excuse, and I'm not here to debate personality or anything, but I'll just use this as an example. We can't be concerned with our comfort zone because God trumps our comfort zone. God goes above our comfort zone. So if God tells us to do something that's out of our comfort zone, we do it because he's God. But I'll use this example of people saying, I'm too introverted to talk to people. If you were in a Berdan building, if you were in a house that was on fire, and you didn't know the people that were in there, are you going to be introverted? Are we going to be shy and ashamed to talk to them because that building's on fire and just leave and do our own thing and say, hey, have fun? They'll eventually know it's hot. They'll eventually see the flames. They'll eventually see that something's wrong. But what if they don't? What if they're asleep? What if they just are happy where they're at? It sounds weird to say, but would we step out of the way? Of course we would. Every one of us. If this place got on fire, I know I'm not going to be the only one yelling fire. I'm going to be yelling fire, get out. It's not going to care about my personality. It's not going to care about who I am. It's going to care about who you are. It's get out. Let's get out of the fire. And it's the same as the world. The world that we're in is on fire. The world that we're in is on a very quick way to a very bad place. And we need to understand it's our job to tell them to get out. It's not our job to save them. And I'd just like to talk about this, our job in the harvest. And this is where I'm getting. This is my exciting part. I did all that tugging and pulling, and now I'm excited. Because our job is this in the harvest. In Isaiah 59 and 16, it says, he saw that there was no man, or no person, it's not being gender specific, just saying he saw that there was nobody, and wondered that there was no one to intercede. Then his own arm brought salvation, and his righteousness upheld him. The Hebrew word for that, I forget the actual word. Tyler can tell you the actual word, but I forget the actual word. And it basically means appalled. God was so shocked. God was so appalled. God was so horrified to say that he wondered, why is there nobody doing what they're supposed to do? Why is there nobody stepping in that gap? Why is there nobody grabbing me and grabbing them and saying, come together? He was horrified about that. So he brought his own arm. He took our job and brought his own arm and said, I'm going to bring salvation because I'm not going to let these people pass away. If there's not going to be anybody step in, I'm going to do it because his heart is for the harvest. And in John 4 and 34 to 38, it says, Jesus said to them, my food is to do the will of the one who sent me. And this is going to sound very controversial, but hear me out. This is our job. God sent us. God has commissioned us to go forth into the harvest. So this is the words of Jesus, and I'm not saying that we are Jesus, don't misquote me. But this is also our words. Our food, our purpose, our job is to complete his work. So he said, he explained what the work is. He said, don't you say, there are 4 months and then comes the harvest. He said, I tell you, look up, the fields are white for harvest. The one who reaps receives pay and gathers fruit for eternal life. That's also why I believe you have to be concerned with the harvest, or we're probably not going to spend eternity gathering and reaping the eternal life that he's talking about. Anyways, continuing on. So that the one who sows and the one who reaps can rejoice together. We all don't have the same job. And I know this contradicts my point of saying, but your job is still to sow. Your job is still to put seed in. But sometimes, people aren't as good. Tyler could be a way better Bible study teacher, getting them in and getting them discipled and getting them ready to go out to do more than he is bringing people to church. I'm not saying that about Tyler, but he could be that. And I could be the person that's to bring them in. And that way, because we have the principle of the harvest, me and Tyler can rejoice together that, hey, I did my part and you did your part, and now we are in the harvest. Now we have people. So don't misconfuse your jobs. We all have different jobs, and if you're not as good as somebody, don't worry about it. You probably just have a different job. Get in your own lane, do your own thing. Go where you go best. I'll just use my work for example. Sister Elsie and Sister Violet, they're bakers. You put me in a bakery, you're going to quickly find out that's not my place. That's not my job. And I might look like what I'm doing, but I promise when you go taste that bread, you're like, man, whoever the savings he's got in their bakery needs to get out. But I'm sure if you put them carrying shingles or carrying lumber on a roof, they're going to say, hey, I don't want to do this. You're probably going to realize that's not their place either. They probably don't want to do that. So we all have our own job. We all have our own place. And he says, for this instance, the saying is true. One sows and another reaps. I sent you to reap what you did not work for. This is a promise that we have. We are going to reap stuff that we didn't even work for, that prayers have gone on for centuries, that there's been other people who have labored. And their labors, they never seen the fruit of their labors. But we're going to reap that because they labored. And that's our promise. In 1 Corinthians 3, 6 and 9, this is just going on our jobs. We're talking about Paul the Apostle here. This is a man. This is one of the greatest men of God to ever walk the face of the earth. We're not just talking about, just a normal Joe. We're not just talking about, me and my little work for God that I do. We're talking about Paul. And Paul's writing this. He said, I planted. I did the planting, but I didn't do the watering. He said, Apollos did the watering. Now we asked, Paul, of course he could have done the watering. Of course he could have. But he was a better planter, and Apollos was a better waterer. So they understood their job, and Paul said, I'm gonna get them. Apollos is going to take care of them. And he said, but God caused it to grow. So neither is the one who plants counts for anything, nor the one who waters. But God causes the growth. The one who plants and the one who waters work as one. But each will receive his own, or his reward according to his work. According to your work, you're going to receive your reward. So if you're a planter, get to planting. If you're a sower, get to sowing. If you're a Bible study teacher, get to doing Bible studies. Get to doing what you're good at. Get to doing what you're called. And we all are co-workers belonging to God. You are God's field, God's building. We belong to God. This is God's field. This is God's place. God can provide it. God can take care of the harvest. We just got to go in the harvest. And if we could go to... Actually, don't go to my next slide. Yeah, I got to make sure in my notes. Sometimes I don't like teaching because I go to my notes a lot. I feel like I get distracted too much. But anyways, so at the end of the day, it's God's harvest. And all we can do is what we're good at. And if that's just showing love to people, then you show as much love as you can. You love on people. I'm not a hugger. If you like hugging people and that's how you show love, you go hug everybody. I promise I'm not going to go hug everybody. I just, hi, how you doing? But if you're the lover, go love people. And this is the testimony I wanted to share. I got so excited when I read this, and I'm still so excited about it. And it makes me laugh because I can just think about how mad hell is right now about this. Just because of one, little lady showing love. This happened. Anyways, let me tell you this testimony. There was a satanic, one of the head guys, this is very, very recent. This is like May, and he just came out with it in June and kind of told his story. But a satanic priest from South Africa, recently, one of the top guys, like top satanic priest that there is basically in South Africa. Recently, he was converted to Christianity just because someone gave him a hug. Just because a woman went out to him and gave him a hug. Then he said, I'll share his words later, but he didn't even say that she said anything. She just gave him a hug, and that won him. And we're not talking about, just somebody who's, the normal person. This guy is in witchcraft. Like, this guy is gone to the gone. Like, I'm going to be honest, I'd probably look at him and think, I don't know if he wants God. But this little lady decided that she was going to show him love. That it didn't matter his tattoos. And if you look up the guy, look up him, just put satanic priest, South Africa, converted to Christianity. The guy has a big tattoo down his forehead, comes to a big point, tattoos everywhere. Doesn't look like your average guy. Doesn't look like he wants anything to do with God. He has pentagrams on him. He has all this wickedness and stuff on him. And I can only imagine how mad. And I love it. I love it. And I love it because he got saved, but I also love it because I can just picture the devil freaking out because one of his top guys got taken out by this little woman that he probably thought wasn't a threat. And I love it. He's probably so mad. And it's, church 1, devil 0. We win. But anyways, this is his words. He said, I got involved with Satanism because at the time it resonated with me being very broken and sad. Without realizing, he didn't realize that he was broken or sad. A lot of people are like that. It's awful. But he said, I think the reason a lot of people resonate with Satanism is they come from a very broken place. He said, I met thousands of Satanists over the last 3 years, and I'm not saying intentions are bad, but they are extremely broken and extremely hurt. That's the one thing we all have in common, he said. And it says, holding back tears, Swilliger explained that he turned against Satanism after recently experienced unconditional Christian love. Just unconditional Christian love. Nobody taught him a Bible study. Nobody did these great things. He never went to this great preaching. He never went to this great camp meeting or this great tent revival. Just someone showed him unconditional love. I love it. I hope that I can do this someday. And he said, I've never known unconditional love in my whole life. And up to today, there is only 4 Christians. This is a very sad thing that he said to me. There's only 4 Christians in my whole life that have shown me what unconditional love is. I said, I want to thank those 4 people. Words cannot express what you have done for me. And he said, to show someone love is everything. He said, it's not a simple thing. You have shown me everything. He said, you have showed me the love of Christ. And he said, I have seen it in you. And this is what he added. He pointed out that the love was shown to him during a time when he was a monster and an ugly person. In mid-May, Swilliger gave his last interview as a member of the SASC on the Cape Talk radio station. Following the interview, a woman working for the station whose name he would not reveal came to him and demonstrated God's love in an unexpected way. He said, I told her I don't believe in Jesus, and I don't believe Jesus and Christ exists, because I didn't. She came to me after the interview, he said, and after I said that, she hugged me, and she held me in a way that I have never been loved. He said, that's all she did. She just said it was nice to meet me in person. And he said, a week later on WhatsApp, through her status, I saw this woman as a Christian. He said, I've never had a Christian do that. He said, and I've never experienced a Christian show much love and acceptance unconditionally. He said, after I said the things I said to her, she did that, stayed with me. Just because this woman came up to this monster of a man, this guy who the rest of society knew he was a satanic priest. They knew that who he was, but this little woman came up to this monster and just hugged him. Didn't say nothing, just hugged him and held him. And now, because of that little seed that was planted, who knows how many seeds were planted before? But because of that one little hug, because of that one little act of love, it wasn't a whole lot. I'll admit, I take hugs for granted all the time. but it changed this man's life. So we don't have to focus on, how can I be this great thing? Or how can I be this awesome thing? We just need to focus on showing the love of Christ. And that's why I mentioned earlier, is our mindset biblically like Christ? In every situation, just because we have the opinion, like I said, my political opinion, that doesn't mean my political opinion trumps me showing the love of Christ. But I always have to show the love of Christ. Even if the person is a high Satanist, I have to be the one to show them love. And because of this, I'll say it again, I love it. I can just imagine. Hell is freaking out. So we never thought that would happen. And I love it. Just this woman just came out, didn't say nothing, and just hugged him. And that changed the whole story. But that is the power of the love of God. That is the power of unconditional love. That is when I read that, I'm going to be honest, that made my week, and I've been floating on cloud nine since. Every time I think of it, I just laugh. I wish, obviously I don't want to talk to the devil. It's not worth my time. But if I ever get the chance to sit down with him, I'm like, you lost. You're a loser. You suck. Go home. You're an idiot. Just a hug. Did all your years' work, all the stuff that you put into this man, just one little hug from a Christian. Just one little hug. Just sucks for him, I guess. I don't know. I'm happy. He's not happy. I can tell you that. He's probably not happy. But that is our job. If you're the person that shows love, show love. If you're the person that can teach, teach. If you're the person that can sing and you're a worshiper, sing and worship. If you're the person that just wants to go out and talk to people, if you got this nice charismatic attitude that you can walk up to anybody, doesn't matter the race, doesn't matter the language, even if they don't know your language, you can just go up to them and talk to them. I've seen some people like that. One of my friends from Bible school, I've seen him go up to people who barely speak English, and you think he knew them and could talk to them actually, and he's just talking. I'm like, man, how do you do that? I can't do that. But that's his job. That's his job as a Christian. So find your place and do it. And so my last thing in closing, I just want to share why work in the harvest field. And this is very simple. Is the harvest field, it's rough. I'll be honest. As the son of a blueberry farmer, I can tell you that I've seen my dad work long hours because of the harvest. I can tell you that I've seen him work 24-hour days and sometimes longer because of the harvest. So he goes on weeks of no sleep. There's long nights and early mornings. But to him, the harvest is worth it. The blueberry harvest, getting those berries in every year is worth losing your sleep. Getting that produce in to make the money to feed someone's family or to do whatever he decides is worth it. But for some reason, he counts all those sleepless nights, all those late nights as worth it. And can I tell you, church, that the spiritual harvest is no different. It's a lot of sleepless nights. And if we're moving into the end times, it's going to be a lot more sleepless nights. It's going to be a lot of hurt, broken people. I said it on Sunday. My prayer is that this church will get messed up. I pray that there will be Satanists that come in these doors and that their lives are radically transformed. I pray that the whole place is filled with people with tattoos that are, they're just a mess. I hope they come in smelling like drugs. I hope they come in smelling like alcohol. I hope they come in with all their problems and they flip the place upside down. Because this is the place to be. Even if it messes me up a little bit on Sunday. Even if it messes me up because I have to teach them a Bible study or I have to, be associated with somebody who's deemed as not worth it by the rest of society. Even if it messes up my schedule, that I hope and I pray that people that are bloody and dirty and sinful, I hope they come in, and I hope this church is like a hospital. I hope we're trying to keep it clean. We're working and keeping people discipled, but I hope as soon as the ambulance comes in and says, hey, we got a person in here and they're in bad shape. They're going to bleed everywhere. They're going to get a mess everywhere. And bad things are going to happen. I hope we say, come on in. You can just keep coming. You can keep coming. I hope we're not the church that shuts their doors and say, no, we just got the place cleaned. I hope that as a church, it sounds, people are, this is where they misquote you. Some people be like, I hope he gets the church messed up. That's where I'll be quoted. James hopes the church gets messed up, but I do. I tell the world, I hope the church gets really, really messed up. I'll be honest, I'm tired of just seeing suits and nice clothes on Sunday. I want to see people come in shorts. I want to see them come in t-shirts, mohawks, whatever you deem as worldly. I want that. I want them to come up in the power of God, to be so convicted that they come up and they leave drugs on the altar. That's happened before. People have left bags of weed or bags of cocaine or needles. People have done it. I hope that happens. As soon as that happens, I'm not like, whoa, they have drugs. I'm going to start kicking it to the side and saying they're free. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did. I'm going to end up telling the devil, church 2, devil 0. We won again. Sucks to suck. You're a loser. We want another one. That's what I hope happens. So in Galatians 6, 9 to 10, it says, so we must not grow weary in doing good. For in due time we'll reap if we do not give up. That is the principle of God. We will reap if we don't give up. So then, whenever we have an opportunity, let us do good to all people, everyone. The sinner, the drunk, the saint, the person who doesn't, the person who has it all, the person who doesn't have anything. Let us do good to all people, and especially those who belong to the family of faith. And I believe Paul wrote that because it's so true in the church. We need to learn to love on one another too. We need to learn to love and appreciate our differences together. That's what Jesus said. He didn't say that they're going to know you're my disciples by how you do all these great things. He said, they're going to know you're my disciples by how you love one another, by how you treat each other. So, I'll say this, I hope none of us are gossiping. But, if we're out there, talking to people in the world about how big of a doofus our brother or sister in Christ is, I'm going to be honest, I'm a doofus. Doesn't mean we got to go tell them. We can't gossip about each other. We can't go say needless things. Because they're watching. And why in the world would they want to come to a place that doesn't even love each other? We need to love each other, church. So he wrote, we must not grow weary in doing good. The harvest is hard. But don't grow weary in it. And I said, if we could go to my last slide. I said, we cannot give up because we do this for them. And I wrote just down, I wanted to put pictures, but I just wrote down a list so you can imagine in your mind. But we don't give up, and we keep reaping for our friends, for our family, for our neighbors, our coworkers, for the addict, for the Satanist, for the homosexual, for the hurt, for the lost, for the broken, for the abused, for the scared, for the fearful, for the lonely, for the sad, for the condemned, the alcoholic, the murderer, the prisoner, the bruised, the sinner, the saint. We do this for everybody. We do these for the ones who are bound by religion. We do this for the ones that, they have nobody. They have no one to turn to. We do this for the foreigner. We do this I could have wrote a long list. We do this for the prostitute. We do this for the one who is addicted to things. We do this for the one who is bound by sin and shame. And at the end, I put in all caps. We do this for everyone because he did it for us. In an honest examination, where would we be if his love and mercy never stepped in? Which one on the list were we before Jesus stepped in and changed our lives? I fell into a lot of those categories. I fell into some of them. I could have fallen into a lot more. I probably would have had his grace and his mercy not stopped in. If he never loved me so much, if he never loved you so much, some of us, we should have died a long time ago. For those that you participated in things of the world, you should have died in that car accident. But his love and mercy stopped it. I'll be honest, I got into some situations I should have been dead. But his love and mercy stepped in. His grace stepped in. There were situations where I was running from things that I shouldn't have been running from. But his grace stepped into a room that wasn't even my home and said, I've called you for a different purpose. We do this for them, church, and that's why we don't grow tired in the harvest. And that is why we need to reap the harvest. Is because out those doors, I know we come in, and if we could stand. I know we come in on Sunday, I'm not saying we're not all going through stuff. I know people are going through stuff. But we come in and we see a bunch of saved people. I know we have visitors. I know we're growing. And I'm thankful for that. I really am. But we can come in these buildings and get so easily distracted. And I'm not against what we do. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say that we're doing foolish stuff. But we can get so easily caught up in the Sunday morning routine. Taking church for granted again. I said it myself. I said once COVID's done, I'm not going to take church for granted, but I've taken it for granted at times. I've taken the opportunity that I have to fellowship with my brothers and sisters in Christ for granted and said I'd rather be home because I got to wake up early. Or I'm tired, so I don't want to go to church. This is just real. This is excuses I'm sure we all have. And if I'm the only one, I'm fine with confessing my faults. That doesn't matter. But I don't want to just come in and I know I said it, we have visitors, but I don't want to just come in and see a bunch of saved people. Because out there's a world that we're rubbing shoulders with every day that is hurted, they're broke, they're addicted to things, Like that guy said, he got involved with Satanism just because he was hurt and broken. He got involved, and I'm not saying this to try to glorify the powers of the devil. You guys know I don't think the devil has any power unless we give it to him. But just because he was hurt and broken, he got involved in a world that he did not understand. Because hell and the devil will do things to people that you never ever dreamed. And if you just give it that open door, a lot of wrong things can happen. And out there, and I know we're hurting in here, but out there, we're hurting in here, but at least we have a crutch. Some people tell me, church is a crutch. And it's like, yeah, but if you're walking on a broken leg, you need a crutch. I'm walking on a broken leg. I need that crutch sometimes. I need that help sometimes. But out there's people, they're walking on broken legs, they're walking with broken bodies without a crutch. And it's hopeless for them. And that's why, church, we need to be so concerned. And our minds have to be fixated on reaping the harvest. Don't worry if you don't see results just yet. Because in its time, we will reap the harvest. In its time, the fruit will come. It may not be right now. It may be a lot of work right now. Your family might be putting you through a lot of stuff. You might have put a lot of prayers, a lot of effort, and you're getting frustrated because it's just not working out right now. But if you just keep on doing and you don't grow weary in doing good, then you will reap the harvest. We need to be about our Father's business in this day and in this hour. Just Jesus is coming very, very soon to a world that does not know him. A world that is lost, that is being deceived. And even if Jesus isn't coming soon, if it never happens in my lifetime, the world is still broken and hurt. And that's enough for me. I don't want them just so they don't go to hell. That's a bonus. But I want them so they don't, because I know what it feels like, and some of you guys know what it feels like to be at the end of the rope thinking there's nowhere left to turn. And that's what a lot of them are. So, I'm sorry that this is, got heavy at the end. But, the cross is heavy. Some people don't like heavy Christianity, and it never works. Because we're called to carry a cross. We're called to hold that cross. Even though it gets hard, even though it gets heavy, we carry that cross. So if we can just close in prayer. And, I say this all the time. I'm not just saying it because it's my words. But let's really consider the Word of God. And I'm not saying that we don't get me wrong. I know this is a church that loves and appreciates the Word of God. But let's let it grow deep in our soul. I need it. I need it just as much as anybody else. I am by no means perfect. But let's let it grow deep to convict us to go more. Because if we're truly in alignment with God, if we're truly close to God, we will have a heart for the harvest. So let's just close in prayer, and I ask that, that you'll pray with me. We don't have to scream and shout, but let's let God talk to us in this moment. Let's let him just, have his way in our lives and tell him to convict us about things if there's something that, some things are a salvational issue, but some things are a mission issue. And if there's things in our lives that are distracting us from the mission, let's pray that God will help us to get rid of that. Jesus, I come before you once again. And Lord, I pray that your voice and your touch will just speak into our lives, God. Lord, I'm not pretending that I have been perfect by any means. I'm not saying that I have it all together or that I'm the perfect example. So God, I ask most importantly, convict me, Lord. Convict my heart to do more for you. But God, I pray that you will shake us, God, that you will move us and that you will do whatever you have to do, God, to wake us up to realize that the harvest is plentiful. God, I pray that you will let us hear your heartbeat that is beating for souls. I pray, God, that if there's anybody in here that they've grown weary of well-doing, that they've grown weary of walking the walk of a Christian, that if they're getting tired and they feel like that they're at the end of the fight, God, Lord, I pray that you will lift them up on wings as eagles right now. Lord, I pray that they will wait on you, God. And I pray that you will let them soar. I pray that you will let them stop walking for a moment, God, and that your hand will carry them. And not most importantly, but God, I pray that you will also awaken them to go to their brothers and sisters in Christ, to reach out and to do something and to ask for help and to understand that we are a body that walks together, that fights together, that moves together, that carries each other when we can't carry ourselves. God, I pray that you will help us to love each other more. I pray that you will convict us in of us ourselves, God, to love like we've never loved before, like the testimony of the ex-Satanist, God, who has now found you. I pray that we will have an unconditional love for sinners and saints alike, God. I pray that no matter who it is, God, that there will be an unconditional love that you have for this world that goes beyond measure, that goes out of its own way, God, to reach and to seek and to save, God. Lord, I pray that you will awaken us to our own roles and responsibilities. God, those who are to plant, I pray that you will allow them to plant like they should plant. Those who are to take care and to water the ground, I pray that you will help them, God. I pray that those who go in and they reap the harvest, God, that they're the ones who are going in and bringing it in, God. I pray that you will help them, God. I pray that you will realize that it doesn't matter how we're working, but what matters is how we are working. Lord, I pray that you will convict us, that you will move in us. God, like Tyler spoke on Sunday night, God, I pray that you will let us do it with all our might, with all our strength, with all our ability. God, I pray that you allow us to go on what we've done before. And God, I pray that you will let us be about your business. I pray for our families and our neighborhood and our community, God, that we will awaken to realize that the fields are white with harvest. Yes. And Lord, I pray that you will help us to carry your cross. And I ask this all in your mighty name, Jesus. And Lord, we receive your word and the work that it's going to do in us. And in Jesus' name, everybody said amen. God bless. If you have an offering, you can leave it at the back. And other than that, Sunday is church, 10:30, 6 o'clock. The pastor will be here once again. Thank God for that. Friday night is prayer meeting. Let's all join together for prayer meeting Friday night at 7. God bless you.